My name is Menmu Uzumaki, aka Rock Lee, and I fight with the power of youth!
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Neon Pow here, and this week we are doing part 3 to What If Rock Lee Was a Nine-Tailed Jinchuriki. Now guys, if you have not seen the previous episodes, I highly recommend you do so, and a link to that playlist will be in the card above and in the description below underneath that like button. Also guys, speaking of likes, let's try to hit 100 likes on this video for your beasts, because I know you guys should be able to smash it. On the last video, we weren't quite there yet. I know many of you are looking for the What If Naruto Uchiha series, but guys, just trust the process because everything will work out in the end and it will be amazing. So, just trust me guys, and you'll have an awesome journey down this content-filled ride. So, without further ado, we're just gonna hop into the video. Let's go. We last left off our young nine-tailed Jinchuriki, Rock Lee, finishing his first B-rank mission, which wasn't really a B-rank mission after he finished it all. We saw Lee use the chakra enhancement techniques Guy Sensei showed him, and saw the fruits of what his weight training could give him. When they returned back to the Leaf Village, Guy Sensei decided to tell his team that after seeing the stellar performance on the last mission, that he recommended them all to partake in the next Chunin exams. Neji is indifferent, Tenten is excited about this, but doesn't show it, but Lee is ecstatic about this news and the possibility of fighting stronger foes. He is especially excited since he knows the Uchiha twins, that are known for their insane girth of power, will be there as well. Guy tells them that the Chunin exams will begin in 2 months, and that they should make sure to not slack off on their training and try to get as strong as they can before then. With that said, Neji goes to the Hyuga branch to train his gentle fist, while Tenten does her own training on summoning her ninja tools more efficiently. Now for Lee, Guy Sensei tells him that he will take him upon himself to train him. After witnessing Lee's performance on the last mission, Guy feels Lee is more than ready to learn a special forbidden technique that will increase his power multiple amplitudes greater. This technique is the opening of one's inner gates. Guy, make sure to tell Lee that the technique, once learned, should only be used when there's no other options before him. Opening the inner gates is very detrimental to one's physical body and could possibly even lead to death if not careful. He further mentions that this technique is not on the same scale as the chakra enhancing techniques, which causes little to no strain on his body. However, this news does make Lee a little bit nervous, but all the same super excited to master opening his inner gates. With that, 2 months of extraneous amount of blood and sweat in training passes by. To Guy's surprise, Lee was actually able to unlock up to his 5th inner gate in such a short time span. This was due to, of course, Lee's unwavering will and perseverance, but most importantly, to his vast amount of stamina due to his Uzumaki half, and Nine-Tail's fast regeneration capabilities that Kurama would occasionally share to Lee. Guy tells Lee again to be very careful with this new power, and that he should not use it carelessly. Team Guy then heads out to the registration area to get signed up for the Chunin exams. As they are walking up the stairs, they notice the Uchiha twins undisguising the upper level ninja proctors. This of course irritates Neji because he sees it as a way for them to show off their superiority. Neji confronts them, and as Lee walks up the stairs himself, he sees that Sasuke and Neji are about to exchange blows. So he gets in between them and stops the impact. He then tells Neji that this isn't a place to get riled up, and then apologizes to the Uchiha twins for the disrespect that Neji might have caused them. He then introduces himself and says he can't wait to be able to fight them soon. He then takes his leave before he loses his composure from wanting to fight them on the spot to test out their abilities. However, as Lee leaves the building with his team, he can't control his excitement anymore and needs to fight one of the Uchihas right now. He runs around looking for them and sees that they are about to leave themselves. He then calls out to them and asks if he could spar with one of them, as he could not hold back his excitement anymore. The Uchihas are surprised by this remark since they actually felt the same. Naruto and Sasuke both play rock, paper, scissors to see who would fight Lee, and Naruto ends up winning. As you can imagine, the fighting between an Uchiha enhanced with Hashirama cells and a Taijutsu master enhanced with Nine-Tailed Chakra goes a bit out of hand, causing the entire building to begin shaking from the clashes of the two. This causes Guy Sensei, who has been watching the fight, to show up with a
dynamic entry!
end the battle prematurely. Lee says,
"Aw, Guy-sensei, it was just getting good."
He says he knows, but they can't be causing so much commotion in a public space like this. The two ninjas understand and give each other a fist pump and promise to have a proper rematch sometime in the future. We now skip to the first part of the Chunin exams, the written exams. Neji and Tenten both pass relatively easily. However, Lee actually struggles to even answer one question. He was never the smartest cookie. However, at the end, he ends up giving a speech about perseverance and never giving up to the proctor, and surprisingly, he lets him slip right through the exam. We now move on to the Forest of Death part of the test. Not much planning goes for Team Guy, as Lee is not paying any attention to a single word Neji is telling everyone. He is too focused on Naruto and Sasuke Uchiha, as he wants to be able to fight them in real combat. The siren for the exam goes off, and Lee is ready to immediately chase after the Uchihas, but Lee looks towards Neji, who is yelling at him at this point, and by the time he looks back to the Uchihas, they have disappeared in an instant. This makes Lee frustrated, and he charges into the Forest of Death, head first, forcing Neji and Tenten to follow pursuit. Neji knows he can't fight Lee's stubbornness, so since he wants to teach those Uchihas a thing or two himself, he complies with helping tracking them down with his Byakugan. Neji spots them in the air, which makes it difficult to catch up with them since they are moving so fast, but they make an attempt. They actually see them get shot down and wonder what could have happened, so they rush over. It takes Team Guy some time to get through the Forest of Death to the place they saw Team 7 fall. When they arrive, all they are welcome with are with some sound ninjas that have been slightly beaten. With the sound ninja's cocky attitude, they are excited to get some easy pickings after a big loss from Naruto Uchiha. However, they are in a rude awakening. Team Guy, with Lee holding back, took care of the ninjas relatively easily, and to their luck, they had the opposite scroll they needed. The sound ninja are now physically and morally defeated. But lucky for them, they still have plenty of time to try to steal 2 more scrolls and pass. With Lee at the lead, Team Guy is sprinting to the HQ. Lee wants to get there before the Uchihas, but to his dismay, the Uchihas have already been there for quite some time. Naruto teases Lee and says that with slight smirk that he guesses when Lee said he was the fastest around, he wasn't actually talking about running speed. This makes Lee turn red and he gets quiet and thinks, Nani? How does he know? With that, the next part of the exam begins starting up. Neji goes first against Naruto, a fight that Neji has been waiting for far too long, as he wants to teach the Uchiha brat a lesson. However, in the end, to his surprise, he ends up losing. In a way, this loss was good for Neji, as he gave him more perspective to his life in the future and his destiny. Next up was Tenten, who goes against Tamari and loses. After this, the exciting fight between Lee and Kankuro begins. Lee is so stoked to be able to fight this guy as he has no clue what he's hiding in the large bandage-covered object. However, Kankuro ends up forfeiting to keep his weapon a secret. Lee is obviously disappointed as he wanted to test his abilities and possibly the new technique Guy-sensei taught him. But regardless, he will be moving on to the next round along with Naruto and Sasuke. Between the time the final exam is taking place, the Genin are given some time to rest and train for it. Lee, of course, doesn't believe in rest, so he uses this extra time to keep honing his taijutsu abilities and increasing the amount on his weight training. As Lee is running around the village with his arms, he ends up hearing an older man with white hair laughing perversely and bleeding from his nose. He isn't sure what he's doing, so he walks up to the man and asks. The man tells him to be quiet and points to the bathhouse. Lee then looks, and with just a small glimpse, he yells, "Wah!" This, of course, alerts the security, and the old pervert grabs the unconscious Lee and dips. Once Lee wakes up, he begins breathing heavily and looks around quickly, locking his eyes with the old man, and begins yelling, saying a proper man shouldn't be doing such frivolous deeds. The old pervert just laughs and says he'll understand one day, and then introduces himself as Jiraiya. Lee just gasps and thinks who could possibly ever see peeping as okay. Nevertheless, he introduces himself as Menma Uzumaki. Jiraiya looks very intrigued once he hears the name, and then actually offers to train him. Lee appreciates the offer, but he isn't sure what this old perv could help him with. Jiraiya sees Lee is hesitant, so he then further tells Lee that he could help him better control the nine tails inside of him. Lee is now, of course, intrigued, as he now realizes that this man isn't just your average person. Lee actually speaks up to Kurama and tells him the exciting news. Kurama could care less about training and just ignores Lee and goes back to bed. Lee also makes sure to let Jiraiya know that he can't really do much with chakra, as he has no talent for it. Jiraiya just begins laughing and saying, "No worries, kid. No one is that bad. I'll make sure to whip you up in no time." Most of the training arc passes with Jiraiya's assistance. However, Lee has had no luck with holding the Nine Tails chakra without Kurama's assistance, whenever he did bother helping. This, of course, makes Jiraiya furious as he thought Lee was exaggerating, but the kid really can't do anything with chakra other than enhance his physical abilities. Though, Jiraiya did find something Lee could make use of as long as Kurama assisted, which is still shocked to hear that Lee is on good terms with the Nine Tails. Lee could prosper from the regeneration of the Nine Tails. This would be specifically important whenever he chooses to use the inner gates, which puts a massive amount of strain on his body. From then, Lee thanks Jiraiya again for assistance, even if he wasn't able to get much accomplished. Lee heads over to the Chunin arena to get ready for his fight. As he is there, his opponent, Gaara of the Sand, passes by him. From that encounter, Lee is shaking, but not from fear, but from a nostalgic reminiscence of what he once was. This actually wakes up Kurama, and he finally speaks out to Lee, telling him that he doesn't like that kid's presence and wants him to be wary of him. Lee is shocked that Kurama was actually bothered by Gaara, which must mean the situation is grim. He knows that he won't be able to hold back then. The Chunin exams go as per normal until the fight between Sasuke and Naruto, as both of them are nowhere to be found. Lee fortunately is able to buy enough time for the Uchihas to show up. The Uchihas appreciate Lee for the assist. More Naruto than Sasuke, since he still isn't as acquainted with the yellow-haired kid. The Uchiha fight begins, and after a long and gruesome fight, Naruto is able to come out on top. The next battle is between Lee and Gaara. As the fight is beginning to start, Lee doesn't even hesitate to take off his weights, which causes a massive dust cloud from the explosion of the force. Gaara does not expect Lee to amount to anything, so he's surprised to see Lee instantaneously start punching his sand all around him. Lee's speed is actually getting faster as he uses his chakra enhancement ability, multiplying it all the way to 3 times. Lee's speed and strength is too much for Gaara's sand to handle, and he manages to smack Gaara straight in the face, knocking the sand ninja back. However, he isn't done yet. He begins kicking up Gaara in the air, and with each kick, he begins to go higher. Eventually, Lee reverses and does a downward kick straight into Gaara's gut, making him speed into the ground with a great force, causing a massive explosion from the impact. Once the dust clears, we begin to see that Lee's attack was not powerful enough to take out Gaara, only shatter his sand armor. However, the show of power from Lee makes Gaara smirk villainously, as he has never been able to be challenged before. Lee, still trying to recover from the last attack, is surrounded by Gaara's sand and engulfed in a coffin. He feels the sand tightening around him and knows this isn't good. He nervously tells Kurama that he kind of got reckless and needs a hand. Kurama sighs and says sure, and lends him a very small amount of his chakra, which helps Lee explode out of the sand with orange chakra surrounding him, which quickly dissipates. This display also shocks Naruto and Sasuke, as they had thought Lee couldn't infuse chakra, let alone orange chakra. After this, Lee knows he has to pull his trump card and unlock his inner gates. He begins screaming. His body begins to be surrounded by a release of inner chakra. His skin turns darker. His veins begin to pop, and his yellow hair stands up, making him look like a Super Saiyan. Lee has unlocked the 3rd inner gate. With this new power, Gaara and his sand doesn't stand a chance, and Lee begins smacking him around in the air like a ball. And then, to finish it all up, Lee ties up Gaara and yells, "Hidden Lotus!" knocking out Gaara on impact and causing him to spit out blood. Lee is exhausted, but he believes that the final attack must have gone to Gaara. However, Kurama yells to Lee to move, and Lee dodges a giant sand hand that would have crushed him had he not moved a second too late. Gaara is now in his semi-tailed beast form and is locked onto Lee to kill him. Kurama tells Lee that the One Tail's rage is currently controlling Gaara. Lee instinctively knows that everyone in the arena is in danger and uses his chance to force the Gaara beast to follow him outside the village, away from the civilians to continue the fight. As Lee is leading Gaara, he feels the massive strain of the inner gates on his body, and he knows his limits are about to be reached. But he keeps pushing through for the sake of the others.
Will Lee be able to pull off the fight with Gaara, or will Lee succumb to his limits? How will Naruto and Sasuke Uchiha come into play during this attack on the village? Find out on the next final episode of What If Rock Lee was the Nine Tails Jinchuriki.
And that's where we're going to be ending this episode. So guys, if you enjoyed it, make sure to smash that like, as I love all the support you guys give me. And if you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe and hit that bell icon so you can stay up to date on all the juicy what ifs coming to a streaming service near you. Now guys, without further ado, much love, Neon out.